But here's a little social experiment. How many people in this room honestly, truly, legitimately believe your individual vote makes a real difference? Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad there's a big response to that. That's good, because usually almost nobody claps. There's like a little smattering of people, and I'm in that group of people who does not believe that. And I've been trying to figure out a way to explain how I feel about this, and the analogy I came to is this. When I was a little kid, Nintendo was coming out, alright? Now my parents didn't have a lot of money, and I also don't think they wanted me to have that. But they did give me a video game of sorts. What they got me was a VHS cassette tape, which you put in the VCR. You close that down, you press play. It comes with a plastic gun. On the TV screen, little planes would start flying across the screen. Some of them would blow up, some of them wouldn't, and you'd try to shoot them and blow up the ones that were blowing up. And eventually, I put my gun down, and the planes kept exploding on the screen. And that is what I believe our government is. It's a game we think we're playing, but we're not at all. So, whenever anybody's telling me that, like, my guy's gonna save the world, your guy's fucking it up, I'm always like, you guys don't seem to understand. The shit's not plugged in, okay? Like, it's not happening. I'm glad you're having fun with it. Don't get me wrong. But it isn't happening. Like, it's so fucking wacky. Our system of government is so crazy and bizarre that it's like if you were trying to explain it to somebody, it wouldn't make sense to them. Like if they had never understood the situation before, like everybody wants good things. I want good things for all of us. I want great things. Everybody in their heart kind of wants health care, right? Everybody wants to have that, but it's too complicated of an issue. It's not going to happen. And I have a hard time explaining that to people because it's like, dude, we can't decide where to park by ourselves. We can't fucking get along regularly, handling simple shit. And that's a very complicated issue. We can't deal with that. Alright, let me rein it in and I'll try to put it to you this way. Let's say all of us in this room, in this Improv comedy club, we all want to get a new computer. We all probably do. But they're very expensive, right? So we can't afford a computer individually. So what we do is we come up with a terrible idea. We decide we're all going to throw in on a computer together, all of us in this crowd. We're all going to put 20 bucks in and get a badass computer. Awful idea, but we do it anyway, okay? Now we don't go to the computer store together because that would be chaos. What we do is we come up with an even worse idea. We hire a random collection of rich dads and grandpas who we've never met and don't care about the situation that we're dealing with, who also volunteered for the job, which we didn't think was weird, and we give them the money. And they're like, we don't know the first goddamn thing about a computer. And we're just like, you just go on and go do it. And so they go off, but they don't go directly to the store. They go outside and they get a ride around town from another collection of our shiesty uncles that are trying to get a car wash off the ground. And they take them around all their golf courses and steakhouses and they're like, hey, we don't want to influence your stranger's computer money, but this car wash could really change all our lives. You get free car washes forever, by the way. So we hang out here for a long time. Eventually, all those dads and grandpas come walking in through these back doors, wearing golf clothes, covered in steak shit, carrying a Radio Shack bag. And we're like, well, that's not a good sign, just a bag by itself. That's not a good sign. So they take out a Kindle, and they give it to us. And we're like, well, that's not what we asked for. And they go, no, that's the best Kindle they had. And we're like, no, you don't understand, that's not a computer. And they're like, well, we don't like who you're all dating. And then we're like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? A huge argument, nothing gets resolved, but we don't change our plan. We just cycle out a few more dads and grandpas, give them more money and send them back to the store, and we have the nerve to be upset we don't have a computer, and that's what's really happening, and nobody's upset about it. It's so crazy to me that I'm surprised these lights are still working, and we're in here, and it's not some Mad Max Thunderdome shit where some guy in a fucking ski mask is up here twisting and doing a spin. Like, who's next to the lottery? Like, I think it's that crazy. It's impressive that we're not in a hell-on-earth situation because it's so fucked up that elected officials will walk up on a stage and say, gay marriage, what's next? Marrying animals? And it's like, dude, you can't just say whatever crazy shit comes to your mind. Like, you can't just, like, people are listening to you. I mean, you gotta know that's not real, right? You have to know that's not real. Because let's say, just for sake of argument, that your Tourette's level outburst is a real thing. Let's just say, just for the sake of the argument, if you want to buy that, you got to go way back and, like, whether or not you support gay people is a side issue that you have to deal with in your own mind. okay? But you gotta give them this. Those fuckers have paid their dues. Those fuckers have been around the block a couple of times. They have been beaten and ostracized and pushed out of society since forever. And have just been like murdered and dragged behind trucks, but they've like persevered and they have to lie about their whole life. Like, yeah, that's just my accountant that I live with forever. This guy that I hold hands with and garden with. You know what I mean? Like, they have to lie about that shit. But they push through it because it's who they are, and they get communities established, and they get bills passed and have parades, and get people elected. People that fuck animals aren't getting together. You understand that? Like, that's not a thing. There's not a handshake or anything. That's not happening. They're not doing anything like that. They're just still in the honeymoon phase of like being confused about what this is. Or just waking up in the barn and like, oh boy, it happened again. All right, where am I? What time is it? Are you okay? How did this happen this time? What do I call you? Are we dating now? What's your name? That's just numbers on a metal tag. I don't know how to say that. I'm gonna get out of here because this is weird. Trevor's in trouble. Gotta go. So I don't think that it's the next thing that's gonna happen because there's not some like nicer part of Montrose where a dude lives with a couple of cows